Hi, welcome to Ask the Therapist for Psych Central. I'm Dr. Dan Tomasulo, and this is Dr. Marie Hartwell-Walker. And we want to talk a little bit about family dynamics.
Yeah, family dynamics. I was telling Dan a very dear story. At least I find it dear in its own way. There are two gentlemen that I've been seeing on and off for a couple of years, each of whom was in the foster system. And they're actually from a family of 7 to 9 kids. I lose track.
Right.
But they all went into foster placement, not because of abuse in their family of origin, but the family was so poor, the parents surrendered the kids into the system.
Wow.
Father has since died, and they have found their mother.
Oh.
And in the last few years, they've been trying to get together periodically. And so some event will happen, like a birthday or a holiday, or I haven't seen you for a while, and 3 of these brothers and the mom try to get together. And there's a lot of anticipation, and we talk about this as they go into this. I've been through about 3 rounds of this. And here's what inevitably happens. They both are drinkers. All three of the men are drinkers. And so's mom. So they start having a convivial beer or 2 that turns into 6 or 8.
Right.
And then somebody says something that offends somebody, and then they get into a big fight, and it gets very loud, and the neighbors call the police, and the police come, and somebody gets a restraining order on somebody else.
Sure.
And the whole thing blows up, and everybody goes in their separate corners.
Wow.
Until 3, 4, 5, 6 months later, it's a birthday, it's a holiday, it's something, and they try again.
Sure.
What I find very dear in this is this is a group of people who are longing so much for family. And they're trying very hard to reconstruct the family that they lost so many years ago. And they're really struggling. And I have to give them enormous credit for that. And there's enormous heart in it. But it falls apart. And the reason I was talking to you about it earlier is because although this is an extreme example, we see this all the time. People write to us all the time of, it's another get-together happening. I'm afraid it's going to end up in a fight. We'll end up blowing up with each other. What can we do? So I thought we'd just talk a little bit about it. And of course, number 1 to me is stop the alcohol, but that's easier said than done. Because it disinhibits everybody.
Well, you know, what you're saying is really interesting because you said something there that I think is 1,000% true. They're trying to recreate the family they had. And what's happening is they're doing it. And
That's true, they are.
They're doing it very successfully, right?
They are.
Because the family they had, the family falls apart. And there's nothing to hold it together. So one of the ways to think about that, at least for me, is that when a family does that, you can't go back and go get that family, because if you do, you're going to get that family. This is not that family. And so they have to be differently with one another. I definitely think the alcohol is part of it, but the structure would be, let's do something completely different. Let's not try to go recapture, old times, because they want the old family in the worst way, and that's the way they're going about doing it.
Well, and that suggests, again, what kind of practical strategies can we help them with? Like, it's not new information who's going to insult who about what. If you already know that, you can change the script. When your brother says this, can you say that instead? Let's rehearse that a few times. If things start to heat up, can somebody go for a walk? Can somebody say, we need to take a break, or we're going to end up like we did last time? So can everybody agree that we'll just go cool off in our separate corners and come back together? Kind of thing?
The other thing that I've found is to mandate that the family have a limit. They're only going to be together for 2 hours.
Good idea.
And literally have a countdown, and at the end of 2 hours, they get out of there. Because
get out of there while things are still good, or at least sort of good.
Because if you take a look at that stuff, it's probably the 4th, 5th, or 6th hour where it falls apart. So let's just try to capture the good part. We're all going to meet for lunch, and not in the home. We're going to go out to a diner.
Which will also put some structure around it.
A diner that doesn't have alcohol.
Let's not meet at the corner bar. So to try not to reclaim the old family, to try to structure a new one, maybe put some boundaries of time and space around it, and help people rehearse how they're going to not fall into an old fight. Exactly. Okay, good idea.